My name is Gary Chamberlain, and I live in Switzerland. I lived in Italy, actually, 25 years.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
25. How old are you? Maybe I'm...
25 is still a long time.
And my wife is Swiss. I'm an American. Actually, I
Okay.
grew up in America, but then my adult life, I've lived in Europe.
Wow.
And I currently, Italy 25 years, Switzerland for 13 years, 3 adult children, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Wow. Amazing. Well said. Well said.
Are we rivaling any of those countries? How long have you been in Kenya?
Oh dear.
Have you been in Kenya, or are you visiting?
I'm visiting. I've been to Africa 3 times, and each time has been to Kenya. Yes.
Wow.
I haven't been to any other African country
Except
Kenya.
We are special like that.
We are.
You're a Kenyanese now.
And it's been a pleasure to
Wow. Absolutely awesome.
You've obviously checked out some of the books that Kenyans have written. I would like to know how we compare with out there. How do you gauge us?
I think you're comparing very well. Even when I look at the quality of the books, just the production itself. I think the quality is very good.
Oh wow!
Even the graphics, the covers. I've seen a difference even in the last several years in coming to Kenya. That there's definitely an improvement, and I think there's more professionalism coming in. And why shouldn't there be? You know, it should be that way.
Yes.
And you know, one of the great things here is that Kenyans write in English. They can write in English, you see. And so if you want to have your book translated, it's so important that the book is already in English. Because then you have the opportunity that a French or a Romanian or a Russian, a Spanish publishing house can easily read your book at that point. And there are other countries, such as maybe Romania, for example, where we also work, that if there are authors writing in Romanian, well, a publisher in France cannot read Romanian.
True.
And so it's difficult for them to get their language into other languages. Whereas Kenyans have that advantage that you write in English as well. Yes. And so the book is readily available and given access to other countries.
Wow, that is good. I love something you've mentioned about the publishing bit, because you know, it's interesting. Most of us thought writing is just writing, you know, but also the publishing, the finished product, you know, plays a very big part in also how your book sells, and also how people receive the book.
Definitely.
So I think this is, you know, some of the tips that even upcoming authors need to know, so that also you just don't focus on it has a lot of content, but the cover is not appealing, you know. But
that's a problem. You know, there are some countries, I have to say, that I look at the covers and I think, man, what are they doing here? Get your act together. Come on. You know, but no, really, I mean, there are various covers, and there was even an award for the best cover of the year. And yeah, it's wonderful, because you have to recognize this artistic work that goes into preparing the cover. And it's not just the photo on the cover, it's the font that you've chosen for the title. It's how big the title is. It's how appealing. You know, when you walk into a bookshop, your eyes are going all over the place in the bookshop. And there are certain books that somehow the cover just grabs your attention, doesn't it? And you see that when that happens, the graphic artist who designed that cover did his or her job well.
True.
Because it's appealing somehow. And a lot of people buy a book because of the cover.
And that's a marketing strategy that most authors need to, you know, capture and capitalize on.
And you know, let me say this too. One of the important things for it, because I know a lot of people are buying books on internet as well, Jumia and so forth. Okay, the thing is, if somebody's listening here who is a graphic artist or is thinking of publishing a book, make sure that your cover is ideal for the internet as well. Because if you make the cover, if you make the font too small, or the image is kind of strange, it might not appear well on Jumia. You see, and you need the cover. You need to make the cover for internet today.
Have it in mind, at the back of your mind, as you're also coming up with
at
it.
the forefront of your mind.
Yes.
I would say, not just the back of your mind.
At the forefront.
Yes.
Movie is a soccer fan, so everyone who comes in has to
are you supporting?
Which team are you supporting? Like,
I was asking him. Now he's from the US, he's from Switzerland. So
he's lived in Italy. So which team?
There you go, 3 teams. So who is he supporting?
Well, Italy's not in the World Cup. So,
they didn't make it this
Switzerland.
Switzerland, yes.
But I know there's no way they're going to get to the end. But it's okay.
Wow, interesting. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But we're having a great time right here on Pal Radio, and just having a chat. Talk to us about the fact that you lead a global missionary organization. Mm-hmm. How does that come in together with like CLC? How are you able to partner that together?
Well, what happens is CLC International is in 43 countries.
Yes.
One of those countries is Kenya, and we are what we call a fellowship, and so all of the countries voluntarily are part of this international organization.
Right.
And so what happens is CLC Kenya began and it was part of the international fellowship, and so that means that the countries look after each other.
Right.
It's not just sort of CLC Kenya is out on a limb and they just have to fend for themselves. We have this sense among us that we are in this together on an international level, and we are impacting the world with Christian literature. And so when one country is hurting or one country is celebrating, we all participate in that together, you see. And so there's a very, very strong sense of camaraderie, and again, I think fellowship is the right word.
Yes, it is powerful.
Because you feel like we take care of each other. Yes.
Fellows in the same ship.
There you go.
Well, that ship is big. It spans the whole world. 44 countries.
And right
I'll
now,
tell you, sorry, let me say this. I'll tell you, I put a lot of information last evening on my Facebook page and on an internal page we have as well. And I'm sure my colleagues, hundreds of colleagues around the world, now know what has happened here during the weekend with the Aqaba Awards and the work that has been done with photos and descriptions and so forth. And I'm sure they are celebrating and rejoicing today to see what's happened here in Kenya.
Oh, beautiful.
I just wanted to point out that, right now with social media, it's even made it easier for us to even fellowship with people from other countries, now you're not just limited to your home area, that you can actually fellowship with other people as well. So, I mean, we are headed towards the right direction, and we need to make sure that we use every other space, every digital space, to make sure that we preach the good news, which is the Word of God. And maybe you can just share with us a few highlights in regards to publishing, how the European publishing world is like, and maybe as opposed to Kenya, what are we supposed to work on? We just mentioned about the covers and the font, ensuring that it's also digital friendly, if I would say. Maybe what other pointers would you give to an author who's listening, an aspiring author? They're planning to venture into that space.
Well, I would say you mentioned about Europe. Europe is a very mixed bag. You have countries that are very, very developed in their evangelical, in their Christian publishing. And like the UK, Germany, for example. And then you have a lot of other countries that the Christian community is maybe rather small, especially the evangelical community. It may not even be 1% of the entire population in that country.
A small percentage.
Yes, sometimes it's very small. And that is such as is in Portugal or Italy, also Russia, because we work in Russia as well, in the Russian language. And so it's I would say some of those countries are very similar to Kenya, probably, where yes, there are people who can write, but often the books are translated. In Kenya, they're in English already. Okay, so they can just be imported from the US or the UK. But in a lot of the other countries, they actually translate from English. And so some of the famous authors are Max Lucado and Yancey and Charles Stanley and so forth that people love. But you have the advantage here, as I was saying before, that you actually can write in English. And obviously fluent English. And so that helps the entire process to function very much more easily. And what happens is you were mentioning about this, just the process here. I think, and this is one of the things things I mentioned in my talk at Aqaba that I gave is that writing is an act of humility, I think, because you are opening yourself up, and so when you write, you need to be an honest person. You need to be careful that you're not bragging about yourself, because we want to brag about God and about the church, and help the church. We don't want to brag about ourselves. And so I think that's one of the key things about an author anywhere, and including in Kenya, is that you're writing for the glory of God, and to just keep that in mind. And writing is a discipline. I think there are a lot of people that think, oh, I'm just going to, maybe I'm a pastor, or maybe I'm somebody that I've been a Christian for many years, or I've had this incredible experience, and I'm educated, and I can just sit down and write a book, and within a month I'm done. Well, it doesn't quite work that way.
It takes time.
It's the rare book or rare manuscript, and I mean very, very rare manuscript that you get that is basically finished when it arrives on your desk as a publisher.
Wow.
And so and the act of humility that I was speaking about means that you need to listen to your publisher. You need to not just say, here's the finished product. You need to say, here's what I was able to accomplish. Now you need to come beside me as the publisher and as the editor and help me to make this even better. Help me to bring out the message in an even more powerful way that is relevant to the people in Kenya. Okay, or Uganda or East Africa, let's say. And hopefully maybe that material you've written is going to be relevant to people all over the world. So that's amazing to think about. That maybe the book is picked up in other languages as well.
Yes. Now, in closing, because time is really well, we say muda umetupa kisogo. Time has given us the back of the head.
Oh, I thought you were pointing out that I'm bald.
No. At least you're not bald here. Now, what would you, in summary, really, what would you say? What is your experience in summary as we close? Or one statement you'd probably want to pass out that you didn't get a chance to speak about?
My mother told me years ago, and I've always kept this with me, there are going to be times that you don't even feel like reading the Bible. Make sure every day read at least one proverb.
Wow.
Okay? And that has stuck with me because there have been times that I did not feel like reading the Bible, maybe for an extended period even. I just did not feel. But that idea stayed in my mind and helped me very much, so that those other times when I felt like just consuming books and over and over were a delight, because maybe I needed that moment of a sort of almost, it sounds strange maybe, kind of a desert in a certain sense, to make me appreciate those moments of the oasis of reading. And I think one of the most important things, and I would say this to the parents out there, be the example to your children a few minutes a day. I'm not asking an hour, just 3-5 minutes when they're ready to go to bed. Take some time with a book in your hands and read to them and let them read to you. And so they will begin to acquire that sense of, wow, this is special. This concept that I've just read, or this character that I'm reading about, I want to read it again tomorrow. And I want to follow this story. And they're going to develop then a love for reading. And make sure your children once in a while catch you. They've come around the corner in the living room and you're sitting on the couch reading, and they caught you reading a book.
Because they learn a lot from what they see.
They are going to learn. They're going to just see. They might not say anything to you, but they're going to see their mother and their father appreciating a book. And education, of course, I mean, you need books in order to be educated. There's no way out. And to raise your level and standard. And that's where parents come in. And I would say this too, pastors, please talk about books from the pulpit. Why not? If you got a concept in your sermon from a book, tell people this book this author said this.
Recommend that book.
Recommend that book
people
from
to
the
read.
pulpit. And you are going to have then more and more and more, a population of Christians who love literature and are growing in their faith and love of the Lord.
Right.
Beautiful.
Well said.
Wow.
96.9 FM. Pearl Radio.